All right, I'm going to give everybody just another minute or two to get on, and then we'll go ahead and start. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So before I start talking about duck typing, I'm going to go over duck typing. I'm going to review the abstract class stuff that I talked about last time. Does anybody have any questions, or is there anything you'd like me to go over before we dive into that stuff? If so, just put it in the chat or start talking. Okay, I guess there are no questions. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start talking about duck typing. Let's see here. Okay, so duck typing is the idea that if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and sounds like a duck, then it's probably a duck. Okay, and so what does that actually mean? All right, well, I'm going to start off with an example. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a basic class. Okay, and I'll have, let me think of a subject that I want. I will do, I don't know, somebody give me a subject. So it's going to be like that. Cars. All right, we can do cars. So I'm going to do a class called, let me think, how would I want to do car? Well, okay. Trying to think. How could I do car in such a way that this would actually make sense? Okay. I'll tell you what. Vehicle. Nah, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna just I'm gonna make a class called box. Okay. And I'll explain why I'm not gonna choose cars and vehicles in a second. Okay. Don't think I'm as well prepared tonight as I should be. Okay, so I'm going to make a class called box, okay? And I'm just going to create a simple constructor. So we'll have, maybe we'll have like height, length, and depth, or something like that. So we'll do self.height equals h, self.length, self.depth equals d, okay? All right, so this is my box, okay? Now, I want to, before I go any further, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up another window, and I'm going to go ahead and run this in interactive mode. Okay, this is called lecture 12. All right, and I'm going to create a new box. All right, so I'll just, it doesn't really matter what numbers I pick. All right, so here's my box, okay? You see that I have this box, okay? Now, if I was to say, is instance B box, what do you expect the answer would be? True or false?
True.
Okay, true. People in the chat are saying true, okay? And it would help if I spelled is instance correctly, I suppose. Okay, and you're right, okay? Because B is definitely a box, okay? No big surprise there, okay? Now, if I was to say B is is instance B, geez, B, comma, list, okay? Do you think that B is a list? What do you guys think, true or false?
False.
Okay, one person says false. Okay, got a few falses in the chat. All right. And sure enough, you're correct. Okay, box is not a list, so therefore the is instance is false. Okay. Now, there's another function that we haven't used before called is subclass. Okay. And what is subclass does is it tells you if one type is a subtype, is a subclass of another class. Okay. So do you think that box, this new class that I just created, is a subclass of list? Who thinks so?
It's false, I believe.
Nobody knows? Nobody cares. Okay. All right. Somebody guessed false. A few people have guessing false. Okay. And you are correct. Okay. Box is not a subclass of list. Okay. When I define box right here, I didn't say that it's a subclass of list or anything like that. So it absolutely is not a subclass of list. Okay. Likewise, do you think that box is subclass? Do you think that box is a subclass of int? Who thinks so?
I think it's false.
Okay, see a false, at least one false in the chat. Okay, no, box is not a subclass of int. Okay, let's go ahead and before we continue further, let's go ahead and define something that is a subclass of box. Okay, so let's do, we'll do a serial box. Okay, and in order to make it a subclass, I have to put it in parentheses. Okay, so serial box is now a subclass of box. Okay, and I'm not actually going to make serial box do anything. Okay, I'm just going to hit pass. Okay, so now if we were to execute this same code, okay, and we did b equals box. Okay, do we think that box is a subclass of serial box? What do you guys think? Okay, I see a bunch of falses. Okay, and you're right. Okay, box is definitely not a subclass of serial box. But what if I said serial box and box? Do you think serial box is a subclass of box? I'm seeing trues in the chat. Okay, and you're correct. Serial box is a subclass of box. Okay. And so this is all, there's nothing really interesting or exciting about this. This is all exactly what we would expect based on what we have here, okay? Now, suppose I am going to define a method called underscore underscore contains, okay? This is a special method in Python, okay? But it's called underscore underscore contains. It accepts self, like all of our other methods, and then it accepts a single argument, x. You can call it whatever you want, okay? But I'm just going to call it x, okay? And what this function does is this tests whether the passed in argument is in this object, okay? So I could put in some code here to basically say, you know, if x, so let's do this. What we, in our world, we're going to say that if a box has a smaller height, a smaller length, and a smaller depth, then it exists inside this box. Okay, it's not a very realistic example, but I'm just doing this to illustrate underscore underscore contains. Okay, so I'm going to just put in a little bit of code here, and I'll say if self dot height is less than x dot height, okay, and self dot length, or sorry, I'm doing it backwards. So I want the passed in item to be smaller than box. Okay, so if and self dot length is greater than x dot length, and self dot depth is greater than x dot depth, okay, then we're going to return true. Otherwise, we're going to return false. Okay. All right. So all I've done is I've created this underscore underscore contains method, okay, that does some sort of calculation that we define, and then it returns either true or false, okay? In this case, what we're saying is that any box, okay, and we probably should actually put in a test here so we can say, you know, if is instance x comma box, then we'll do all of this other stuff. Okay. And if it's not a box, then we're automatically going to say false. Okay. So in other words, a box can't contain anything else in our world. Okay. So that's what we're working with. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you what the point of all of this is. Okay. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to rerun this in interactive mode. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a box. Okay, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I have a box that's 3 by 4 by 5. All right. Now, there is a way that I can use the underscore underscore contains method. All right. So there is a function in Python called in. Okay, and we've used it before with lists. Okay, do you guys remember using in? Okay. If I have a list like this, so I'm just going to create a new list, my list, okay? And I'm just going to put in integers for now. So let's do 100, 200, and 300, okay? The in function tells you whether or not something is in this list, okay? So if I said, you know, 99 in my list, okay, it's going to say false because 99 is not in that list, okay? Likewise, if I said 100 in my list, it would say true because 100 is in that list. Okay. Now, what this function that I just wrote, underscore underscore contains, does is it makes it so that I can use this class with the in function. Okay. So in other words, what I can do is I can say, all right, I have this box B. All right. I can create a second box. A equals box, well, maybe I'll call it B2 equals box, and I'll make this box smaller. So I'll make this one 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if I do B2 in B, what do you think the result will be? Okay, somebody says true.
True.
Okay, well, it turns out that it is, okay, because according to my definition, for one box to be in another box, it has to be smaller, okay? Now, I could have defined it any way that I wanted, okay? Now, what if I said my original box is 3 by 4 by 5? What if I said 5 in B? What do you think that will return? Okay, is 5 in B?
True.
Any guesses? Okay, one person says false. Anybody else want to guess? Okay, another false. Okay, one person says true. Why do you say true? Why do you guys think it might be true? Okay, so you're saying because the depth is 5, so in other words, because the number 5 shows up in here, maybe it'll be true, okay? Well, actually, it turns out that 5 is not in B, okay? And the reason why is our definition of what constitutes as being in a box is defined by this contains method. Okay. And so for something to be in this box, it needs to itself be a box, and it has to have a height and a length and a depth that are all less. Okay. Now, what if I said B in B2? What do you think that would return? Okay, one person says false. Anybody else want to guess? Okay, another false, some more falses. Okay, and you're right. Okay, B is not in B2 because B2 is smaller. Okay, the smaller one can be in the larger one, but not the other way around based on our definition. Okay, now here is the really interesting thing, and here is where this whole discussion of duck typing comes into play. Okay, I am going to, let's see, I'm going to I don't know if I remember the syntax off the top of my head. I think it's from collection import container. Is that right? Maybe it's collections. Okay, yeah. So from collections, I'm going to import, there's this object defined in this collections module called container. Okay. Now watch this. Okay. If I do is instance B comma container. Okay. So in other words, B is my box object up here. Okay. And I want to say, is B an instance of container? All right. Now you would think that B is not a container because it's just a box. I haven't said that it's a subclass of anything. I haven't. Okay. But watch this. B is a container. Okay. Oh, wait, there's a question in the chat. Let me see what this question is. The 5 in B, if the contain method is not there, will it return? Okay, I'll get to that question in just a second. Okay. But let me just finish what I'm saying. All right. So B is an instance of container. Okay. Now wait. Watch this. Is subclass box container. Okay. Box is now a subclass of container. All right. And you're saying to yourself, that's witchcraft. How is that possible? I didn't declare box to be a subclass of anything. How can box be a subclass of container? Okay, well, it turns out this is what duck typing is all about. Okay, by adding this method here, the contains method, Python says, oh, if something has an underscore underscore contains method, then I know that it's a container. Okay, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, then it must be a duck. Anything that has an underscore underscore contains method must be a container. Okay. And so it automatically and implicitly makes box a subclass of container, even though we didn't define it that way. Okay. Just by adding in that method, I made box a subclass of container. Okay. And so that's what duck typing is all about. Okay, now somebody asked the question, the 5 in B, if the contains method is not there, then will it return true? Okay, let's try it. So I'm going to completely remove this contains method. Okay, I'm just going to comment it out. So it's as if it's not even here. Okay, so now I just have a normal box, okay, with a constructor and nothing else. All right, I don't have a contains method. I don't have anything else. Okay. So if I rerun this file right here, okay, in interactive mode, I'm going to create my box object. Make a nice big one this time, 10, 19, and 89. Okay. All right. So now the question is, if I do 10 in B, okay, the question is, will that return true? All right. And the answer is, it says, argument of type instance is not iterable. Okay. In other words, what it's saying is I don't know what it means for something to be in B. Okay. Because the only time you can have something that's in something is if it has a contains method. Okay. So the contains method does a couple of things. All right. Number one, it allows this class to work with the in function or the in operator, okay? And because this class no longer has a contains method, it cannot work with the in operator. And you get these error about argument is not iterable, okay? So in other words, it has no idea what it means to be in B because B is a box and box doesn't have a contains, okay? The second thing is that now that I don't have this contains method, box is no longer a subclass of container. It's not a duck anymore, okay? It's just a normal box. Okay? So that is basically the essence of duck typing. All right? So now let's go ahead and look real quickly at the lab, okay? Because I want to make sure you guys understand this. Okay, let's look at the duck typing part. Okay? So it says, in the game of chess, there are 6 different types of pieces: a king, queen, rook, bishop, knight, and pawn. Okay? For this section of the lab, create a simple chess piece class that checks for valid pieces. Okay? And so this is what you want to be able to type. I'm going to do CP equals chess piece. All right, and then I want to check to see if the string knight is in CP. If it is, that should return true because knight is one of these pieces that are mentioned here, okay? If I do jack in CP, that should return false. So in other words, the only strings that should return true should be king, queen, rook, bishop, knight, and pawn, okay? And so I say right here, in order to do the above, you need chess piece to implement the underscore underscore contains method, okay? So that's exactly what I showed you, all right? So let me do a quick example that's not exactly like this, but it's close enough that it's basically gonna give away exactly how to do the lab, okay? So I'm going to exit out of here, all right? I am going to create a class. I guess I can just leave this stuff in here. I'm going to create a class called even numbers only. Okay. All right. So it's going to, in other words, the only thing that should be contained in this are even numbers. Okay. So I'm not even going to define a constructor. I'm just going to define an underscore underscore contains method. Okay. And it always has the self and the X. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say if x %2 equals 0. So in other words, if you divide x by 2 and you get no remainder, in other words, if x is an even number, then I'm going to return true. Otherwise, I'm going to return false. Okay. Now, if I save this, okay, and I run this in interactive mode, okay, now I can do things like 5 in, well, let's see, I guess I need an instance first. So I'll do E equals even numbers only. So I'm just creating an instance of my even only numbers class. And then I'll say E, then I'll say, 5 in E, false, 6 in E, true, 7 in E, false. Okay, you see what I've done there? Okay, because when I do this in operator, it's going to actually run this contains method, and it's going to see whether or not the number is in there. Okay, so somebody asked in the chat, do we need to validate it with is instance? For the lab, probably not. I don't think you need to, okay? Because the only thing that I'm going to expect is a string to come in, okay? Basically, the way that I would do it is I would set up the contains method. So I would just say, if the X is king or the X is queen or the X is rook, blah, 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 then return true, otherwise return false. That way, if they pass in anything else, it will not be equal to king, queen, rook, bishop, knight, or pawn. Okay? I hope that answered that question. Okay? So that's basically all you have to do for that section of the lab. Okay? All right. So then, yeah, so then the rest is just creating test code to show whether or not something is a chess piece or not. Okay. All right. Now, so that's the lab. Let me skip over to the assignment. Okay. So in the assignment, okay, if you recall from assignment 6, we had this circle class that had like X, Y, and a radius. The XY was the coordinates of the center, and then the radius was, the radius of the circle. Okay. And so we are going to detect, kind of like what I was doing with box, we're going to modify the circle class to detect whether or not a point is inside the circle. Like, okay, so whether there's a point. Now, we have to create this new point class over here in step 2. Okay. But a point is exactly what you would think. It's just an X and a Y. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to modify the circle class to detect whether the point is inside the circle. And we're going to do that using this __ contains method. Okay. So in other words, a given circle, let's say a circle centered at 10, 10 with radius 10. Okay. I should be able to pass in an arbitrary point of 5, 6, and it'll say, yes, it's inside the circle, or no, it is not. Okay. And so what I give you right here is I give you the steps that you need to do in the contains method to compute whether or not the point is inside the circle. So the point has x2 and y2. The circle has x1 and y1. You do this math calculation, and then that tells you whatever this comes out to. If it's less than or equal to the radius, then the point is inside the circle. Otherwise, it is not. Okay, so that's what this information here says to do. Okay. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to basically create a static circle centered at 250, 250 with radius 100. And then we're going to basically generate 100 random points. We're going to calculate whether or not the point that we generate is inside the circle using the in operator. Okay. And if it is inside the circle, then we're going to draw it in one color, black. And if it's not inside the circle, then we're going to change its color to red and draw it. Okay. So what you should end up seeing is you should see a circle in the middle of your screen. All the points that are inside the circle should be colored black, and all the points that are outside of the circle should be colored red. Okay. That's what your assignment should do when you've finished implementing it. Okay. All right. So does that make sense to everybody? Does anybody have any questions? Any questions? Comments? Concerns? Nobody has any questions? How many people in here, okay? I'd like everybody to answer in the chat, all right? Put a yes in the chat if you've looked at either the lab or the assignment and written at least one line of code towards either the lab or the assignment. Okay. Put a no if you have not. Everybody has? Wow, look at that. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. I see a lot of yeses. Okay. So that's good. You guys are actually taking a look at this stuff. Okay. What about the assignment? Has anybody completed the assignment? I'll ask that question. Okay, see some no's. No. Okay. All right. Are you running into any issues in the assignment? Okay, just finished the lab. All right, so everybody's basically done the lab. Okay, that's good. Was the lab hard? Any problems with the lab? Anyone want to give me feedback on the lab? Okay, somebody said no. Okay, well, I guess that's good then. I tried to make the lab pretty easy. Still have to do the second part? Yeah, okay, so you'll have to use the stuff that I just talked about, okay? Luckily, it's not that difficult. I think what I just showed you should be enough information. You're just going to basically write a big if statement with a whole bunch of ors, and then I think these are the most dynamic assignments. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to say that I'm going to take that as a compliment. These are dynamic assignments. They're not static, Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Okay. So do I need to review anything with regards to the abstract base classes or people? Okay, the first question part of the assignment. Yeah, sure. Okay. So so this part right here where we're modifying the shape class to make it abstract. Okay, so let's just quickly review making something abstract. Okay, so I will go. All right, I can just leave all this stuff here because this doesn't do anything. Okay, who remembers? All right, I'm going to make a vehicle class first of all. Okay, so this will be my vehicle class, and we'll have a manufacturer, and we'll have a year, and we'll have a color. Okay, so we'll do self.manufacturer equals manufac, self.year equals year, and self.color. Right, so the other thing is the reason why I didn't want to use car or vehicle to do this contains is because I don't know what it would mean to have a car contain something. It's a little bit weird. I mean, I suppose I could have just used a completely different class, but usually you're dealing with like a list or something like that. You know, like, is this item in a list of items? Like that's kind of the main point of the contains method. So even the way I'm doing it with the circle is a little bit weird, but at any rate. Okay, so all right, so I have this vehicle, all right, and then I'm going to create a subclass of vehicle. So I'll have a car. Okay, and I'm just not going to write any. I'll have a boat. And maybe I'll have an airplane. Okay, and I want all of these different vehicles to be able to move. Okay, they need to be able to move. All right, so I'm going to define a method here called move. Okay, and I'll just print vehicle is moving. Okay, all right. Now, suppose in my application that I'm writing that uses all these classes, I say, you know what, it doesn't really make sense to just have a generic vehicle. Like, it's great that a vehicle has a manufacturer and a year and a color because a car and a boat and an airplane all have those things. So it makes sense for them to inherit those properties from a vehicle. But I would never want to create just an instance of a vehicle because it needs to be a car or a boat or an airplane. I'm not just going to have a generic vehicle because I don't know what kind of vehicle it is. Like, I don't really know. Okay, so I want to make vehicle abstract. Okay, who remembers? Okay, so somebody's already answered the question before I asked it. That's great. Okay, yep. So the first thing is up at the top. We need to do from ABC lowercase import ABC uppercase. Okay, and I also need to import one other thing. I need to import abstract method like that. Okay. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I am going to make vehicle a subclass of ABC. Okay. All right. So if that's all that I did, let's see if this class is now actually abstract. Okay. Let's try it. Okay. So I'm going to save this. All right. I'm going to exit out of this, rerun it in interactive mode. And it says, cannot import name ABC. What? Oh, yes. I need to be running Python 3. Python 3. That will solve. Okay, there we go. All right, so now, if I try and do V equals vehicle, and then let's see, we'll do Ford. What was the second one? year and color. Okay, so 1972 in red. Okay. Notice that it allowed me to do that. Okay. So look, there I have a vehicle object. Okay. And I could probably even do v.move. Okay. And it'll say the vehicle is moving. Now, wait a second. Professor, you told me that if I made it a subclass of ABC, then it would be abstract. And the whole point of abstract classes is that I can't instantiate it, but I was just able to instantiate it. This is garbage, right? Okay, so no. All right, so what do I have to do now in order to actually make this class abstract? What's the key thing? Okay, somebody said subtract method. Okay, I think it should actually be abstract method. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare at least one of these methods in my abstract class to have this abstract method. Okay, and so you do it using this thing. It's called a Python decorator, and it's the @ sign followed by the word abstract method. Okay, so I'm going to do that. All right, and now watch what's happened. Okay. Let me rerun this. Okay. So if I try and do this v equals vehicle, then it says, nope, you may not do that because there is an abstract method move. This class is abstract. I refuse to allow you to do that. Okay. So you think, okay, well, I don't really want to create a vehicle anyway. I'm going to just go ahead and create a car. Okay. So I'll create a car. It's Ford 1972 and red. Okay. What? It's not letting me create a car either? Car, it's giving me the same error. Can't instantiate abstract class car with abstract methods move. Okay. What do I have to do to fix this problem? Does anybody know? Anyone? Define move in subclasses. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so, yep, override move, precisely. Okay, absolutely correct. So here in my subclass, if I have declared a method abstract in the superclass or the base class, then in all my subclasses, I have to override that. Okay, or it won't even let me create an instance. Okay, so instead of doing pass, I need to put in a define move. Okay, and this car is driving. Okay, so now I should be able to go in here. Okay, I'm going to point out that I still can't create a vehicle. Okay, I'm never going to be able to create a vehicle. Vehicle is abstract, but I now can create a car with no problems. And I can move the car and it'll say that the car is driving. Okay. All right. Now, let me go ahead and create a boat. Okay. So we'll do a boat. Bayliner 2021 and white. Okay. And, oh, what? It's not letting me create a boat. Why isn't it letting me create a boat? Yep, it's the same problem. I didn't override move, okay? So for all of the subclasses of vehicle, I have to override move, okay? So I could copy these lines right here, okay? I can say this boat is sailing, whatever it is boats do, okay? And so now, of course, if I run this, and now it should let me make a boat, and it does, and I can move the boat. Okay, and the boat is swimming. Okay, so that's basically it in a nutshell for abstract classes. Okay, abstract base classes and abstract methods. Okay, this stuff will be on the quiz. Okay, so make sure that you know this stuff for the quiz. Okay, it's actually, hey, it's only 8:09, so we actually have 20 minutes left, but I think I'm, let me look through here and see whether I've covered everything that I want. Generating a random number, I think we've gone over before. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that I haven't taught you that isn't already. I mean, I think I've covered everything that you need to know to do both the lab and the assignment. Okay. Somebody asked in the chat, any idea of the number of the question? Are you talking about for the quiz? No, I have no idea. I'm guessing it'll probably be 4. If I was to gamble, if I was to put money on it, I would say I'll probably make it 4 questions, maybe 5, but probably 4 because it's only supposed to be like 45 minutes long or something like that. So probably 4 questions, maybe 3. No, it kind of just depends on how lazy I am, and I'm pretty lazy. So I would plan on, I mean, I think we looked at it last time in terms of we don't come to lecture. Yes, correct. Okay, so yes, that's an excellent point. I'll send out an email on this probably on Monday night or Tuesday morning, just reminding people like when to go do the quiz. Yes, you do not come to lecture. Okay, you must take the quiz at 7 o'clock. Okay, 7 to 8 p.m. is the time that we earmarked for the quiz. Okay, so there's no lecture. You just do the quiz, but you have to do it during that 1 hour. Okay, I think I beat that point to death in the last quiz that we had. Okay, so now somebody says 3 questions sounds good, but the problem is that if I give you 3 questions and you bomb one of them, then you could be in real trouble. So it might be better to have more questions. Are you going to give us like the full program or just a part of it? It'd probably just, I honestly don't know. If it's a full program, obviously, if it's only a 45-minute long quiz, I can't have you write 100 lines of code, right? I mean, if you recall on the last quiz, most of the questions were, 5-10 lines of code max. Okay. So it's not going to be, I mean, all the answers are not going to be that many lines of code because you're just not going to have time to do that many. Okay. Quizzes at 7, not 7:30 like the lectures. Yeah, it's going to be at 7 o'clock, and I'll include that. And the only reason why I'm still doing it at 7 is because I said at the very beginning of the semester, like, this is the time, like, go tell your work immediately, like right now, today, that you have a quiz in 2 months and it's going to be at this time. So I don't want to change that. Okay. I feel like I was so militant and ridiculous about the quiz being at that time that we're going to do it at that time. Okay. I'm the only reason why we're having the lectures later is because I changed the time on you, which is kind of lame, but it is what it is. Okay. So can you please go over UML? Okay, yeah, sure. Let me see if I have a UML diagram lying around somewhere. Hold on just a second. I'm going to stop my screen share and let me look and see if I can find a UML diagram somewhere that I can. Oh, you know where I think I have one? I think I've got one in my email. Oh boy. Okay, let's see. This looks like one. Ah, okay, here we go. All right. Let me download this. Okay, let's see here. All right. Share screen. Okay. So here we go. Here is a UML diagram that I believe I created this for Lab 5. Okay. And so the question is, if you were to look at this, and if I was to give you something like this and I said, okay, now you need to go like write some Python code. Okay. The question is, well, how would you do that? Okay. And that's an excellent question. So let's just go ahead and go through it. Okay. Well, I see a few things. I'm just moving some windows around here. Okay. I see that I have 3 classes. I've got a character class, I have an enemy class, and I have a hero class. I know that this ridiculous arrowy thing means that these are subclasses. Enemy and hero are subclasses of character. So make sure you know about that arrowy thing. Okay. And I know that plus means things are public. Okay. And minus means that things are private. And don't forget, in Python, if I make something private, what does it mean if name had a minus sign here and was private? What would that mean for my Python code? Does anybody remember? You can't call it right, but if I was actually writing the code, yes, I definitely would need a setter and a getter, but what about the actual attribute name? Yeah, it would need to start with double underscore, absolutely. Okay, so if I had a minus here, I'd need to call it double underscore underscore name. Okay, but if I had a minus sign here, it should probably be listed as underscore underscore name, just to be accurate. Okay, so if I was to go ahead and write this into some Python code, all right, let me go down here to the bottom of my file that I've been working on. Okay, all right, so I know I have a character class, so I can start off with that. Okay, and I know that it has 3 attributes: X, name, X, and Y, and it has this constructor that accepts name, X, and Y. So I can just immediately, def underscore init self name X, Y. Okay, self.name equals name, self.x equals X, self.y equals Y. All right, that one's done. Okay. I've covered all the attributes. I've covered this constructor. I see that I need a move left that accepts no arguments and is public. Okay, so I might want to do something like this. Move left self. Okay, and I don't know what it does yet. My UML diagram doesn't tell me that. So for now, I'm just going to put pass. Okay, move right. Pass. Move up. And these passes would just kind of be like placeholders until, you get better instructions as to what it is these methods are supposed to do. But from just the UML diagram, you have no idea what these methods do. So it's fine for now to just put in pass, okay? Because unless I specifically told you what a method does, there'd be no way from this UML diagram to figure out exactly what you need to do. Okay, so all right, so that's my character class. All right, then we know that we need a enemy class, which is a subclass of character. And we have a hero class, which is a subclass of character. Okay, and the hero class, now look at this. It looks like the hero class has overridden all of these methods here in the character class, okay? And it looks like enemy has just created a new method called teleport. Okay, so definitely need to have a teleport. Okay, we don't know exactly what teleport is supposed to do at this point. Okay, and hero, I can just copy all of these methods right here. Okay, so there those are for hero. Okay, somebody says, what about straw? Okay, is straw? Oh yeah, look, straw's in my UML diagram. I completely forgot that. Okay, yeah, so I guess I better put that in. So up here, def underscore straw self. Okay, and somebody says, how will you return the string if you don't know what it is? You're right, you don't know. Okay, so at this point, you're just gonna need to return something. So in this case, I'll just return blank like that, an empty string. Okay, and then once I have more details, I'll fill it in later. Okay, but if I was to give you a question like this on the quiz and say, hey, go ahead and create proper Python code, this right here, what I just did with all these passes, this is what I would expect the answer to be. Okay. Because you don't know what you don't know and you can't put stuff in. But this is all valid Python code. Okay. Let's actually make this a little bit harder and say, all right, actually, I want I'm going to add in the enemy class, I'm going to add in a attribute called blah. Okay, and that's going to be an int. Actually, we'll do damage, and that's an int. And let's go ahead and add in another method that is, I guess I should make this underscore damage. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add in another method that's also private called kill. And this accepts an argument of x, which is an int. Okay. All right. So, and I guess I should call this underscore kill. Okay. So how would I incorporate that into my program? Well, okay. Over here in my enemy class. Now I've got an interesting conundrum here because I've defined this new attribute damage, but where do I really put it? Okay. Well, usually in Python, what we've been doing is all of these attributes are defined in the constructor, okay? So I think if I saw something like this, what I would expect is I'm going to expect you to override the constructor, okay? Because that sort of implicitly needs to happen, all right? And now I'm going to have this new variable for damage, all right? I probably can just do a super pass in name X and Y. Okay. And then I'm going to do self dot underscore damage equals D. Okay. Now, of course, if you have this private variable, you probably need getters and setters, but if there were getters and setters, they would be listed in the UML. And since they're not, that means you don't have to put them in. Okay. But there is this other underscore kill method, so we need to do that. So probably it would look something like this, def underscore kill self, and then it accepts this argument X. We have no idea how to implement this or what it does, so we can just put in pass. Okay, and that would be how you would do it. Okay. All right, did that make sense to everybody? So that was if you get a UML question, then that's kind of what I'm going to expect you to be able to do. Okay, so study this because there will probably be something very similar to this. Okay, I'll probably make it a little bit harder. In fact, I can almost guarantee you that I'm going to do like one where one of the attributes in here is going to be another class, right? So there will be like a line connecting it to another class or something like that, just to make it a little bit harder. Okay. But I believe that's what was in the assignment, maybe. I don't remember. So yeah, I'm pretty sure in the assignment that's what it was. Okay. So all right. So does anybody else have any questions? Did that answer your question about the UML diagrams? Any other comments, concerns? Okay, well, since nobody's talking, I'm going to assume that you guys don't have any more questions. Remember, next class, and I'll send out a reminder email on either Monday night or Tuesday. No class on Tuesday. Okay, that's when you're gonna be doing the quiz. Okay, so don't come to class on Tuesday. Make sure that you get these assignments and stuff done. The abstract method stuff and the duck typing stuff is going to be on the quiz, I think. Yeah, I'm just gonna say that it will be. Okay. Somebody says that's the last quiz. Yep, this is the last quiz. Okay. No midterm in this class. So it'll just be this one more quiz and then the final and then your other assignments and labs. And that's basically your grade. Okay. So it's important to do well on these quizzes because there's not very many of them. Okay, thank you very much for your participation, and I'll see you. I guess I won't see you on Tuesday. I'll see you a week from today. All right, thanks, everybody.